If you're planning a weekend excursion to Washington, D.C., the U.S. capital, then you're probably well aware that it's the home of some of the nation's premier museums, including several Smithsonian offerings. Then there are the monuments that over the years have become cultural touchstones. You'll also find great cuisine, top-tier galleries, and a thriving nightlife that competes toe-to-toe with New York, L.A., and Miami. Whatever your interests might be, there's more than enough to see and do in Washington, D.C. Join Viewcation as we take a look at some of the best sites and attractions that await you in Washington, D.C. Lincoln Memorial. Whether you're a history buff or not, you have to go pay old Honest Abe a visit at this quintessential D.C. landmark. Both the Gettysburg Address and Lincoln's second inaugural address are both etched into the memorial's walls. So take a moment to take these powerful words in that had such lasting impacts on America's story. If you're more of an architecture lover, you'll thoroughly enjoy admiring the building for its design, which was the final work of famed American Beaux Arts architect Henry Bacon. The monument features 38 Doric columns, 36 of which represents the state that made up the Union at the time of Lincoln's assassination. While the memorial is a great place to visit any time of day, most people agree it's best to check it out at night when the crowds die down and the monument is illuminated. Plus, if you're visiting DC in the summer, evening temperatures will make your visit a bit more comfortable. Hey, if you're enjoying this video so far, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to Viewcation for more, and stick around for a lot more of the best of DC. The White House. Perhaps the most iconic place of residence in the world, the White House is the home and primary office of the sitting President of the United States. Taking a guided tour of the complex, which takes about an hour, will allow you to see some of its most famous rooms, including the Oval Office and Presidential Library. A visit to DC isn't complete until you check this one off your list, so it's best to make reservations in advance to ensure you'll be able to add a White House tour to your itinerary. The Tidal Basin. If it's your first time visiting DC, you'll want to spend at least some time along the Tidal Basin, which is a 2-mile-long pond that, back in the day, was actually connected to the Potomac River and serves as the backdrop to some of the city's most iconic sites. The springtime is definitely the best time to visit the Tidal Basin, as that's when the cherry blossom trees are in full bloom. You can walk along a path that encircles the basin, but we recommend getting out on the water in a paddle boat to fully appreciate just how grand this place is. Even if you aren't able to visit in the spring, when the cherry blossoms are putting on their show, you won't want to miss seeing the 3 memorial monuments that can be found along the basin's shoreline, including the Franklin Delano Roosevelt Memorial, the Thomas Jefferson Memorial, and the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial. Vietnam Veterans and Korean War Veterans Memorials. Regardless of your political views, it's important to pay your respects to the heroes who laid down their lives to defend liberty, freedom, and the nation they called their home. One of the most touching memorials that can be found within the DC city limits is the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, also known as the Wall. It's a long black granite wall that displays the names of more than 58,000 Americans who lost their lives during the Vietnam War. If you visit, be prepared for a heartbreaking yet powerful and contemplative exercise. Some might even find it difficult not to get emotional when reading the names of these fallen servicemen. If you happen to be looking for a specific name, it's worth noting the names of the soldiers are listed in order by the date of their deaths, not alphabetically. When you're exploring the eastern end of the National Mall, visit the Korean War Veterans Memorial to pay your respect to the 1.5 million brave souls who served in what has become known as the Forgotten War. This memorial is a privately funded site that showcases 19 stainless steel statues of soldiers in combat. The area, called the Field of Service, features statues of soldiers marching towards an American flag. Complementing the statues is a 164-foot-long granite wall that pays tribute to the unnamed soldiers who fought in this bloody battle. Another point of interest at the memorial is the Pool of Remembrance, which is a serene place to sit and reflect on the many sacrifices made to defend the nation. United States Holocaust Museum. Make no mistake about it, visiting this somber museum requires the right state of mind. The Holocaust was one of the worst atrocities ever committed by humanity. 11 million people had their lives taken from them during this horrific genocidal war crime that took place during World War II. 6 million European Jews were slaughtered, while another 5 million Romani, disabled, Jehovah's Witnesses, and other members of minority groups were also killed. They say history often repeats itself. To ensure nothing as senseless as the Holocaust happens again, we must remain vigilant while reminding ourselves often of this dark chapter in human history. When entering the museum, you'll be handed an identification card with the name and few pieces of personal information of a real person who suffered at the hands of the Nazis during the Holocaust. As you navigate navigate through the exhibits, you'll learn about Hitler's rise to power, his toxic anti-Semitic propaganda, and his nightmarish final solution. Along your journey, you'll be given updates about the person on your ID card's well-being throughout these events. While this museum certainly tells an important story, it's not suited for younger children who might be disturbed by some of the graphic imagery. Smithsonian National Air and Space Museum. Millions of people a year visit this incredible museum that celebrates the history of flight. See Amelia Earhart's Lockheed Vega SB, Wilbur and Orville Wright's 1903 Flyer, and Charles Lindbergh's Spirit of St. Louis, among other historic crafts firsthand. Other attractions include an IMAX theater, a flight simulator, and the fabulous Einstein Planetarium. We recommend visiting early in the morning before the crowds start pouring in. It can get especially crowded during the summer months. National Archives. Witness history as you feast your eyes on some of the most famous documents from U.S. history. Here you'll find the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights, in addition to countless other historical documents, records, and ledgers. Take a look at them by yourself, or you can take a guided tour led by an educated expert who will explain the rich history and significance of these groundbreaking documents. You'll also learn about how they're preserved and cared for by teams of curators. The John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. Built and named for one of America's most beloved presidents, John F. Kennedy, this center is the home of the National Symphony Orchestra, the Washington National Opera, and the Suzanne Farrell Ballet. Various other theater and musical events are held here throughout the year as well. The Kennedy Center's rooftop terrace offers visitors phenomenal views of the Potomac River and the surrounding region, and free guided tours are held daily that will give you the opportunity to learn about the theater's architecture and history. Smithsonian National Museum of Natural History. This world-famous museum features more than 126 million artifacts on display and receives literally millions of visitors each year. A few highlights include giant replicas of whales and other marine creatures at the Sant Ocean Hall, live tarantula feedings over at the O. Orkin Insect Zoo, and the Butterfly Pavilion, where thousands of fluttery, multicolored friends fly over and around you. A few other must-see exhibits and areas of the museum include the David H. Koch Hall of Human Origins, the National Fossil Hall, and the Garden Lounge. Michelin star-rated restaurants. There are 23 Michelin star-rated restaurants in Washington, D.C., but we only have time to touch on a couple. The first we'd like to shout out is the Inn at Little Washington. This restaurant, which is actually right outside of D.C. in Northern Virginia, provides one of the most elegant dining experiences you'll ever have the pleasure of having, thanks to Chef Patrick O'Connell. This 3-star rated restaurant is celebrated for its diverse tasting menus. Another great 2-star rated restaurant is D.C.'s Yount. Their tasting menu, the handiwork of Chef Ryan Ratino, will take you on a voyage that will tantalize your taste buds with dynamic flavors. Yount's robust beverage menu will also provide you with the perfect drink to complement your meal. And the last restaurant we'd like to cover is Minibar by Chef Jose Andres. Here you'll be taken on a multi-course journey that will leave you speechless. But you should probably know Minibar is typically booked months in advance, so you'd be wise to make a reservation well ahead of time. Now it's time to hear from you. What's your favorite thing to do in DC? Let us know in the comment section below. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to Viewcation if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content.